In 3, 2, 1.
Good afternoon. I'd like to call the Governance Committee meeting to order. It is 2:59. Martine, it appears we have a quorum.
Well, it does, but Charlotte has asked me at all of our meetings going forward to do a roll call. Even though I see all your smiling faces, this is for official. So I'm going to do a roll call. CJ?
Here.
Clay?
Present.
Georgia?
Here.
Dontavius?
Here.
Perfect. So now we're absolutely official and legally have a quorum. And all the members of the committee are here.
All right, very good. Do we have anyone on who would like to address the committee from the public?
And the way that works with these virtual meetings is they communicate with me via email, and I'm sitting here looking at my phone, and we've started the meeting at 3 and no one has communicated with me that they wanted to make a public comment.
Okay, well, we will move on. As you all know, we have worked very hard to build and maintain a board that is racially diverse, ethnically, geographically, gender, age, occupation. I think we've made some great strides in that area, and Martina's done a nice job of putting together a matrix that shows you all where we are as we think about recommending our next board members. And with that,
So, CJ, I got curious. The first time we did this was 2017. So because I keep everything, I went and got out the matrix from 2017. At that time, the existing board members, as we're starting this process, not the ones that have rotated off, but just the existing, we had one board member that lived in Plant City. Everybody else was Tampa.
Yeah.
All of the board members fell into the white non-Hispanic category, except for one. The majority of our board members were in the over 65 category. We had no board members that identified as a person with a disability. So I think when you look at where we've come in the past 3 years, there's been quite a bit of progress made.
Well, great time to us, and let's continue to grow and make a diverse board. So with that, Martine, you want to walk us through our prospects and the decisions that we have to make today?
Well, you have the matrix, the applicant matrix, and I think we have a really, really good pool of applicants. I don't know if you would like to address the board members that are existing board members who have applied, if we would like to do that first, because Clay, Georgia, and Theron have all expressed their desire to remain on the board.
Martine, I don't think you mean me.
Pardon me?
I don't think you mean.
What was that?
I don't believe Martine means I was one of them. I don't think I wasn't listed.
Did I say Clay? I didn't speak. It's Theron, Dontavius, and Georgia.
Okay, yeah, okay.
So I don't know if we'd like to deal with that. And then outside of those 3 positions, we have 2 open positions, the one that is being vacated by Emery and the one that was vacated by Gabriel.
Okay, do we need to have a motion? And if we do, am I allowed to make that motion if I'm one of the candidates?
Is or not, I'll make a motion to retain those 3.
And
That's probably better. Okay.
Is there a second?
I second that motion.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay. So now the 2 new board members. Martine, you want to introduce our prospects to us?
Sure. Let me get my, so we have a very good group of applicants, I think. Keith Arsenault has got a very strong background in the arts. He is currently one of our grant panelists for our cultural organizations panel that takes place next week. Jennifer Harmon has been a grant panelist in the past. She was a grant panelist last year. Dee Hood is someone that expressed an interest. She applied last year. She wanted to reapply this year. And Bruce Marsh, who of course is a well-known artist, also applied last year and wanted to reapply this year. The situation with Dee and Bruce, both last year, is they both have strong connections to the Firehouse Cultural Center. And at that time, Georgia was the executive director and Gabriel was very involved. The decision of the governance committee at that time was, although they were strong candidates, we didn't really need 4 people with Firehouse affiliations. But since that situation has changed, I encourage them to reapply. Tyler Odell is also one of our current grant panelists. He's got a very interesting background. Nora Payne is the head of New Tampa Players. She has expressed an interest. Paul Tabio just came to us through the process. There was no conversation. We don't see that he's been involved with the organization in the past, but he apparently is retired and loves the arts and has a lot to offer. So those would be the ones outside the existing board members that we have already chatted about. And you can see we have got some nice diversity represented with these applicants, with age, with race, with gender, with a couple cite that they have disabilities. So we have, I think, a nice pool to choose from. And then I always encourage to look back at what's existing on our board, that other matrix, to see if there are any gaps that we especially need to fill, kind of as a starting point, so that we can, and then I think it's discussion. You all read the applications. I think there's a lot to recommend all of these candidates. So I think, we open up the floor for discussion and see how everyone feels.
I'd like to raise my hand for Jennifer Harmon. When I read her application, she made some errors on there that looked like she just cut and paste from another app from someone else. Shows her birth date, 1978, and then she put in why she should be on the board, that she had 40 years in performing arts and over 20 years in the community. She's only 42 years old, so she would have had to start at the age of 2. So I was concerned. So I don't know if anybody else caught that or if I was the only one.
Well,
I agree, Georgia. I also noticed the age thing on there and thought that was a little bit curious. And so, yeah, I agree with you on that.
So I guess I would like to recommend that she be eliminated in the future, reapply with an accurate application.
okay. So, well, this narrows the field. So,
Can I say something real quick? I want to, in interest of full disclosure, I'm not sure how this affects anything, so let me know. Tyler Odell is a good friend of mine, so I don't know how that plays into anything. I'll certainly speak on his behalf, but that is, I don't know if that's considered a conflict or not, but he is a good friend. So y'all let me know what that means or if that has to change anything.
And I think also too, I know Keith Arsenault well. We've worked together for a number of years. I know he's highly qualified in the theater department. He did not use me as a reference, which is a good thing, but he's highly thought of within the arts community. And so is Dee Hood. I had forgotten that Dee used me as a reference the year last year. So if she used me as a reference, probably I need to abstain from any vote on her. I know Bruce well. I believe, if you have the records, Martine, hasn't he served on the Arts Council board maybe about 15 years ago, 20 years ago?
I didn't see that in his
No.
I haven't seen him
No.
as a former board, but I mean, it doesn't mean he didn't. I just don't
No.
have any record of that.
I think he said in his application that he served on the, it was a previous iteration of the board maybe, or a different name, if I remember correctly. Was there like a Tampa Arts Council or something like that?
Right.
He
So
mentioned
I think-
something like that in his application though.
Yeah, I think that was in fact the Hillsborough Arts Council.
Yeah, it was a previous iteration of the organization.
My personal feeling is that if we're looking for a representative for the South County area, I would recommend Dee Hood, because she's not only a multimedia artist, she's also a video artist, and she works with the international videographers and brings in artists from throughout the world to that. So that's just one of mine. And then also, of course, Keith, I'm favorite. And Tyler, I think Tyler had a well-written, but I guess what I wanted to know, and you would probably know that, Clay, Tyler said that she was a continuous resident since 2014, and then she put down 2020, so yeah.
I noticed that he has lived, that's on there, and I think it's confusing maybe the way it's written because it's two different places that it's written.
I know.
I think that he has lived, he's lived in the North Tampa area for as long as I've known him, which has been since well before 2018 or 2020. Since I think I've known him since about 2017, 2016, 2017. So I'm not sure if I know the exact answer to that question, but I know he's lived in Tampa since at least 2017.
Okay, thanks.
So I'm not sure what the 2014, maybe that was in relation to how long he worked in Tampa. He's been at staff in various capacities as a grad student and then also as working for the Humanities Institute for quite some time. I don't know how long, but that could have been the answer to that, but I don't know for sure. And while I'm talking about Tyler, I can say a few things about him. That I thought were interesting about his background. He's an academic. He's has written a really interesting master's thesis. I actually read it. It's an ethnographic study of it's really a very deep and intricate thing that I'm not going to try to explain now because I wouldn't do it justice. A very intelligent guy, very dedicated. He went in this in the arts in Tampa. He was very helpful with. I worked with the last exhibition that I put on with Periphery Media was with the Humanities Institute, for which Tyler works, and he was very helpful with that. I also noticed on there in relation to the other people, he's a veteran, which we have very little veteran representation on our board. But then the applicants, several of them are veterans, so I think that's something that we could help add to. It's a category we don't have represented very well now. That's another good thing about his application, I thought. Also, he's young. We only have one person in that youngest age bracket currently. So those, I think, are a couple things that speak in his favor. He doesn't have an extensive resume in the arts, but he does have an extensive resume in the humanities, which kind of does still fall into what we're talking about here. The other, I'll go ahead and, while I'm talking, just go ahead and say a couple more things. I agree that Keith Arsenault is an outstanding applicant, as well as Bruce Marsh. I thought Bruceless was interesting because he does have that academic credentials. I mean, having been a USF professor for a long time. And then once again, he also fits into an underrepresented age group that we on the board right now. So that's could be something that we would consider. And also, excuse me, I'm sorry. And then also, he also is a veteran. And I thought that Nora Payne was a great applicant. I mean, they're all outstanding applicants. I don't want to say that any of them aren't, but I think the ones that came to mind for me and their qualifications, I thought fit in well with what we have now, or Bruce, Nora, Keith, and Tyler. But obviously we can only pick two. So and those are some of my thoughts. I look forward to hearing what everybody else has to say.
One of the applicants that stood out to me was D Hood. One of the things that stood out to me was her education for over 20 years, like her experience in the education of art. And I know that was one of the things we wanted to that we addressed in our board retreat earlier this year, how we wanted to educate the community and bring art to be more accessible to our community. So I think that's one of the things that stood out to me about D Hood's application. I'm sorry.
So let me just add that I think it would be great if we could get one of our Ruskin candidates, because they both applied last year and we had an abundance of Firehouse. And we really now have no one that lives in Ruskin at all, which is kind of an and we're doing pretty good with the rest of the geographic. So I would add that to being a plus for D. To your point, Clay, about Tyler, he's also, not only is he a veteran, not only does he fit that youngest group, but he's also reports with a disability. So he checks a whole lot of boxes right there.
Yes,
So I think they're all outstanding candidates.
definitely. I would definitely recommend D to represent South County.
I think these another plus for D is I believe we should add at least one female to the board. Right now we have 8 men and 5 women, including the 3 who came back. So I believe one of these 2 people should be a female, to bring it a little bit closer to even.
So I'm hearing a lot of enthusiasm for D, and I'll share that I like the fact that she was interested last year and not too discouraged to apply then again this year. Would someone like to make a motion that she be one of the 2 that we're recommending?
I'll second it.
All
I
in favor?
motion that we elect D Hood.
Wait a minute, who made the motion? I'm losing track.
Don Tavius.
Okay, you made the motion
Yeah.
and Georgia seconded. Okay.
All right, any discussion around that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, so D has one of the slots. And Martine, remind us, these are our preferences. Ultimately, the county commission can do what they choose. Historically, I think they tend to follow our recommendations, but not always.
They do tend to follow our recommendations, and we submit 3 candidates and we say which one is our preferred, but we can submit the same candidates in different order for each slot. So we don't necessarily have to have more than the 5 preferred, and we just kind of reconfigure them. The other thing I do want to point out is everybody we're looking at, when this meeting is over, whoever we've chosen, they do have to go back to the Board of County Commissioners to get their voter registration checked. That will make them ineligible if they don't have, so we might want to sort of pick an alternate today, just in case we made, like, we've selected D, we select another one. We might want to think about having an alternate in case I hear back that the voting is an issue.
That is an issue. That's one thing I noted on Tyler's application. Oh, well, at first I thought that did not answer that, but they did. Tyler did answer that they're registered voters. It was somewhere else, so never mind. Clay, would you like to nominate her or him, Tyler?
Tyler, if we're at that point, if we're at that point and we don't want to have any more discussion, yeah, sure, I would love to nominate Tyler.
Is there a second?
I guess since I suggested it, I'll second it.
Any discussion about Tyler? Is he our candidate? Okay, no discussion. All in favor of the second slot, our preference being Tyler.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Now we need an alternate.
I would nominate Keith Arsenal.
Keith or Bruce. I think those two would be the two that I would say. But if Georgia, since you know Keith and speak highly, you said you know Bruce as well. I've worked with him on a little bit, not worked with him, but corresponded with him a little bit. And Bruce does seem to be an outstanding guy, and he really does have a lot of pluses also. But I'm kind of back and forth between him and Keith, honestly.
Is there just a question for you guys? What about Nora? I know she's been involved with the Arts Council, and I just want to know you guys' thoughts.
She's very well qualified, and I guess it's probably tough to make that decision. We kind of go with who we worked with very closely.
Yeah.
And Nora, I certainly served on grant panelists with her, and she's very, very knowledgeable.
Another thing sorry to interrupt, Georgia, if you're not finished.
Yeah.
I was going to say another thing that I found interesting about Nora that I don't believe I could be wrong, but I don't believe we have right now, is she is a stay-at-home mom. That's a perspective that I don't believe we currently have on the council, on the board, unless I'm wrong, but that's an interesting perspective.
So let me just say that Nora has been incredibly supportive of the Arts Council and changes that have been made, and been very vocal in the community. She came to all the focus groups about the strategic plan. She actually is serving currently. We had an alternate for the grant panel because these are strange times. I've never had an alternate before, and lo and behold, we needed it. But there was a family emergency with one of our grant panelists, so she is, and she just jumped right in, and she definitely knows how to get the job done. I'll say that about Nora.
Okay, that's our preference. It's tough.
Yeah, this is tough.
Yeah, it really is.
Well, Nora does give you one more female. And let's see, an age.
She's 40.
Yeah. So we only have one other, so that's an age group we don't have a lot of people in. And I would say, I do think Bruce is an excellent, but since we got D from Ruskin, I think that kind of keeps him from being quite as strong a candidate coming from that area.
That's true. I also, being that we have selected Tyler as one of the two first, we have someone who works in academia like Keith does. So that maybe lends towards Nora as going a different direction, being that we've already chosen someone from the academia realm.
She's also in the New Tampa area. So that also gives us another part of the county.
Well, and as Theron kind of represents the performing arts, he represents performing arts for our group. She does as well with children, right?
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. I'll go ahead and nominate Nora as the, that was a good call. I think we've all said a few good things about her as the alternate.
I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor of Nora as our alternate signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, so Nora is our alternate. So
And speaking of alternates, one of the things when I did think with coronavirus, we needed an alternate grant panelist this year. We lost a grant panelist last year, and that's devastating last minute. So Nora agreed to be the alternate, and I said, if you're the alternate this year, we will definitely have you on the grant panel next year. So I think if she's going to be the alternate this year, we might want to encourage her to apply again next year if we don't need. So. Well, this is great. It's not even 3:30. You guys run a tight meeting.
my kind of meeting.
Yeah, we did our homework, Martine.
Well,
we read them.
I got to tell you, doing these matrices, better part of a morning, your eyes start crossing, but I think it's valuable to have that information. So the next step is I send to Lou Ann Finley at the Board of County Commissioners, and she checks the voter registration. Assuming everyone's voter's registration checks out, then Nora will not be on the board. But in case there's an issue, she should have the information back to me in time for us to bring this slate before the board on at the August board meeting. And then after that, it goes to the Board of County Commissioners. And again, we just shuffle up the ones that we want in different orders for each spot so that ultimately, now, there is a rule that if the commissioners don't like our choices, they can come back and ask for a new list. To my knowledge, that's never happened in the history of the Arts Council. So I wouldn't expect that. They generally are very accommodating about going with our preferred candidates. So great.
Okay.
Is there any other business from the governance committee?
Can't think of it.
All right.
Okay.
Hearing none, thank you all very much for your time today, and we stand adjourned.
Thank you,
Perfect.
CJ. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yes.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Martine,
Yes.
I have on my calendar August 25th as the next meeting. Is that correct?
Yes, I think so. Let me grab my calendar. That should sound good.
Be the day of the grant panel review. I'm on the grant panel review for the Division of Cultural Affairs, the Florida Division of Cultural Affairs. That's the grant panel review day. So I will do what I can to be on that, but I'm not 100% sure what's going to happen with that just yet. So I just wanted to give you a heads up.
Yes, it is the 25th, and I am doing my cultural development grant panel the day before, on Monday. I managed to get it in after our grant panel and before the board meeting. But if that's a problem, it may not, you may be done by noon, but you might not. So we understand.
So I'm gonna, at the very least, I'm gonna log on and be on both of them at the same time. So I can at least try to be aware, but I just wanted to check for sure if it was gonna
Okay, no, that is. Now that we're doing meetings virtually, they can't always give us the time slot they were scheduled for. I have to work with county communications. But in this case, that was the original scheduled date. And it looks like we can stick with the original scheduled date for September as well.
Okay. All right. Well, it's good to see you all.
Good to see all of you.
You guys later. See you in 2 weeks.
All right, man.
Bye.
All right, goodbye.
Bye.